dreams, right? So I have a dream of something, but I don't really know what it is. So I'm 15 years old, I pick a dream, I start advancing towards it. And when we form our life, what we try to do is we develop a conception, and then we live up to that conception. So I'm going to be a doctor one day. And then the reality is very different from our dreams. So then what happens is we tend to find ourselves in a place that we're like not happy with. So I see this a lot from like people who are like, oh, I want to be like a programmer. But then they're working in this environment where there's like, there's always like scope creep. There's like the sprints are very exhausting. It's burnout. Like, I'm not happy here. So the first stage of a quarter life crisis is feeling trapped. Now you've invested all of this time and energy into like, medicine or being a doctor, and you spent years or like being a programmer. Now you're trapped in this situation because you've invested so much time. The second thing that happens in a quarter life crisis, so people are like, this is what it sounds like. So I wake up every day, I pack my lunch, I drive in traffic, I'm at my job where I'm underappreciated, I'm not challenged. I drive home, I'm supposed to take care of myself, so I'm going to listen to Steven's podcast on the way home. I'm going to work out, I'm going to do laundry, I'm going to eat a couple of chicken breasts, and then it's time for sleep. And you do this for about 2 years, and you're like, is this life? What else can I do? So it starts with a feeling of being trapped. Second thing that happens is people mentally check out. So you'll feel like I'm not passionate about my job. Now, this is where people make a big mistake, because if you look at the research on quarter life crisis, what they will try to do is check back in. They'll try to cultivate some sense of joy, or like, how do I get engaged in life? But this is what's really interesting, is mentally checking out is an important developmental step to growth. So if you don't check out of your existing job or your existing relationship, there's no space in your mind for a new one. So we have to mentally check out. It's actually part of the process. Then this is where things get really interesting. If we look at the successful navigation of a quarter life crisis, we all feel trapped. Then we check out. We think this is a bad thing. Then what gets really interesting is that there's usually some kind of intentional moving away. So in my case, I literally went to India. So we know that human beings need to create some amount of psychological or physical space. I've had patients who have joined the military. I've had patients who have driven cross country. You need space, like physical space and mental space, away from what you're checked out from. Then we get to something that's really interesting. So you asked this question, how do you find purpose? Purpose is not something you find. It's not like you're walking down the street and oh, or you're meditating and it's like, oh, I have purpose. Purpose is crafted, right? So once we mentally check out, that allows us to distance ourselves, because if we don't mentally check out and we step away, we're going to feel guilt. We're going to feel like, we have to check out. We have to give up on it. Otherwise, we'll stay stuck. Does that kind of make sense? Mm-hmm. So then what we have to do is a period of self-exploration and craftsmanship. So then what we do is discover, okay, who am I? What do I really want? We connect with our internal selves. So this is really important about a quarter life crisis. The first phase of our life, we are living up to external expectations. And it's not really about what I want. I think I want to become a doctor, but what do I really know? I'm not really listening to myself. I'm just being programmed by my conditioning. So we start out being very externally focused. Then we feel trapped. Then we check out. Then we move away. Then we discover who we discover. You don't discover. It's not there. You craft who you are. You get in touch with yourself. And then comes the last phase of the quarter life crisis, which is that you craft an external world based on your internal environment. So now your compass is dictating what you do. You find a relationship that resonates with you to begin with. And so in my case, and your case probably, we probably did this in some way. We failed, we did something new, and then we figured out, okay, this is what excites me, right? So at some point, growth excites you. So now this endeavor is about growth. It's about helping people. So now you're crafting your external life based on what you've discovered about yourself internally. And that's kind of the last phase. The problem that people run into is that they don't realize that this sequence is necessary and you have to do it in this order.
Yeah, I was thinking about so many of my friends as you described this process that have come to me for advice recently. These are friends who have quit their business, so they've sold their company.
Yeah.